Okay, so let's look at forensic soil analysis. So soil analysis is really important. It's one of the first things that gets done. Um, Basically, we can analyze soil to compare soil found at the scene of a crime to soils taken from suspects or a victim. Like we can tell if we compare the victim and the soil shoes to another place that we think they might have been, it might confirm that they were also somewhere else during that day or whatever. So these can allow us to make for matches to be made with confidence, as opposed to just looking at a soil on a shoe and go, well, it looks like the soil from over there. Maybe it is. If we analyze the soil in depth, we can actually be confident that we're talking about the same soil. So this can place victims or suspects at certain locations with multiple layers at certain times. So in other words, if you've got several layers of soil on the bottom of a shoe, we can know that they were here at one point previous. If it's the deeper layer and then the layer on top of that, then they were at this point. You'll note that it never said we can show that they murdered someone or stole anything, but they were at a place. Silt, clay, gravel, they can vary from place to place chemically and physically in different proportions. So this is the cool thing. If you ever want to really upset a dirt scientist, types of geologists, call it dirt. It drives them crazy. Now, while, there should be an L there, soil from various locations may look the same or very, very different, doesn't matter, to the naked eye, we need to be able to distinguish in the lab, because this pile of soil and this pile of soil might look very, very different, but they could be chemically identical, which means they're probably the same. It's just you've got a small sample that's a little bit physically different to the other ones. Or they could look the same and be massively different, just the same type of rocks that have broken down to make that soil, but massively different, like phosphate compositions, etc. So, let's talk about our initial and then our wet analysis. But first we need to know that decaying organic matter in soil is known as humus. Not hummus, not humus, humus. Soil varies in color and chemical composition. The differences can be detected using wet and instrumental analyses, such as mass spectrometry, atomic emission spectroscopy, etc. Now, when soil is found on the tires or soles of feet, they're usually mixtures of other soils. So we can get a whole bunch of information basically from one set of soil. And here we can see this is actually a guide that you would use for your initial visual analysis of the soil. As with all, you want to make sure you do your destructive testing last, and this means dry, non-destructive testing gets done first. So preliminary separation would take place with a stereoscopic microscope. This means you separate out the insect parts, you dry it first to make sure there's no water in there, and you just check out the grains of sand and grains of soil and little rocks that are in there using a stereo microscope. You then use a mineral examination with polarized light microscopy and that's actually really cool. It's also really pretty. We then look at particle size distribution, color comparisons. We can do pH testing, but we're starting into destructive testing now. Groundwater tests can be done to find the hardness or sulfate content from where the soil comes from and then compare it to the soil itself. We can find humus by just directly heating it and it'll start to burn. So that's cool. And we can examine pollen and other things. And remember, pollen can tell us a lot. It can tell us where it's from, because different flowers will have different pollen, and we'll even be able to genetically test it to compare that pollen to other pollen and see if it's the same species. So yeah, these are some of the things we can do with soil analysis. There's actually more, and if you want to do some further reading, then that'd be super cool. I hope that made a lot of sense. If it didn't, ask questions, put them in the comments below, or if there's something we've missed, let us know, and yeah, we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thanks for watching. Bye now.